Johnny Sexton, Training Made Easy, Dover, Tennessee. Thanks for watching. I want to do a little video to answer a couple questions people have asked about the Good Samaritan Law. The Good Samaritan Law is in place to protect bystanders from being sued for providing reasonable and prudent first aid care. Now, what I mean by reasonable and prudent, the term reasonable and prudent normally covers anything from care provided by a person with no formal training up to the care provided by someone holding an internationally recognized certification, such as the American Safety and Health Institute, American Red Cross, or American Heart Association. These courses don't normally teach any kind of invasive skill or any skill performed by a licensed healthcare provider. Skills that fall into this category may not be considered reasonable and prudent. Let me give you an example. Some folks may recognize this or may even have one in your jump bag or EDC or whatever kind of kit you carry. This is a chest decompression needle. It's designed to be inserted into the second intercostal space mid-clavicular line to relieve a tension in the pneumothorax. Now, if you have no idea what I just said, then you have no business having this in your kit. If you're one of the folks that does have the training and know what I'm talking about, then you know that a needle thoracostomy is a dangerous skill, and being off by about an inch can cause you to penetrate the subclavian artery and cause your patient to bleed to death. A lot of folks have learned this in the military combat lifesaver course or maybe during medic training. It's taught in a lot of civilian courses just to add a little meat to the course to make it a little more interesting. But in the civilian world, this is a skill that's normally performed by licensed paramedics after a lot of clinical practice. Now, hear me out. This is not a pissing match about who's trained to do what. I just want you to think about this before you do any kind of invasive skill. Pedestrian gets hit by a drunk driver. Joe Snuffy does a needle thoracostomy because he learned it in a class about 10 years ago. Patient dies and the lawyers get sue happy. The driver's lawyer is going to do everything he can to make sure that his client is not financially responsible for killing the guy, but they're lawyers and somebody's going to get paid. So they subpoena the patient care report that shows Joe Snuffy put a needle through the guy's chest. They hire a panel of expert witnesses, all who happen to hold a nationally recognized first aid card, and none of them have ever been taught to do a needle thoracostomy. So now Joe Snuffy is getting sued because the care that he provided was not considered reasonable and prudent by their panel of hired experts. The good news is nobody in the United States has ever been sued for providing first aid care that was deemed reasonable and prudent. But the Good Samaritan Law does not protect you from criminal charges. People have been charged with assault and battery by providing first aid care to somebody that just didn't want to be helped. They didn't get their consent. Consent is simply asking the patient's permission before you touch them. If they're unconscious, then consent's implied because a normal person that's awake would probably want your help. If the patient's a child or minor, you have to ask the parent. If there's no parent present, then just like an unconscious adult, consent is implied. Now, if you're a licensed healthcare provider or you're being paid to provide first aid care, the Good Samaritan Law does not apply in situations where you have a responsible duty to act. So just remember, you may be the only one standing between somebody and certain death. So don't hesitate to use your skills and save someone's life. Just make sure that if you do a skill that may be deemed invasive or outside of the realm of reasonable and prudent, make sure that you have some kind of documentation on hand to show that you are trained to do that skill. If you want to learn more, please visit our website at www.trainingmadeeasy.us. Until next time, I'm Johnny Sexton reminding you that the training you do today will save lives tomorrow.